I'm Sarah. Woo! Sarah, you want me to hold it first?
Little tall.
Little taller.
Little taller.
She's got some height.
Alright, so I want to talk to you all about the different lenses in which I saw Connie.
Talking to the mic.
Thanks, honey.
Todd! Todd!
Okay. I want to talk to you all about the different lenses that I saw Connie. First being the lens of a young girl, her niece. And let me give you some context. I am the firstborn of her oldest sister, Mary. Connie was 10 years older than me and more like a big sister in many ways. Early on, when we were young, my sister's 6 years younger than me. So many years that I was an only child, living in our house in the northern suburbs of St. Paul. Connie was my glamorous aunt who would come and visit. And I was so excited when she would come. You know, Connie's coming tomorrow. You know, she brought so much fun and fire to our house, and I you know, it was a big deal. Also, I have a very fond memory of going to see Annie at Harmar Mall, the movie Annie, 1982. So I can do the math there. And I think I already did the math anyway. But that was a kind of a theme for Connie and I, was music, dance, anything expressive. I think, you know, I want to say we came from similar things, but Connie really instilled a excitement around all those things for me. I have a lot of memories of, so she was living at my grandma's home when I was, let's say 10 to 11 years old. She still had a bedroom at my grandma's house, so we'd go visit for long visits at grandma's, and I'd go sit on Connie's bed and just watch her and observe her. She had such pride and fun in getting ready. So we were finishing our visit to go home, and Connie was getting ready for her night out. and let me tell you, Connie got ready. From how she would put her curlers tautly in her hair and roll them, the perfect place she would have them. Everything had its place, and if you know Connie well, you know that. And the music. She brought so much fun, and just like, the thing about Connie is she pushed through a lot of things in life, and one thing that really helped her was music. They mentioned baking, but music was really big with her. So I remember dancing with her in the room. Bob would come in, he'd throw on some Gap Band or the Midnight Star, early George Michael, and we would just rock out. Maggie might be there as well. Yeah. And I have such memories of driving home, you know, finally going home to our suburban home on such a high from how much fun I had. When I would sit in her room, I would absorb her room, like her clothes, her layout, her love of a certain sage green, or any green, hence our green. And it, you know, I have such memories. I remember perfectly how her room was laid out. Like I said, how she did so many things. She owned everything that she did. She had a special intention with everything. She went to London, like 19, 20 years old, after high school. And I remember her sending me postcards, and it was like, she was like in this faraway, glamorous place and having the most fun ever. And you saw some of those pictures with her hair done with Eileen and Sue. I mean, they were gorgeous and really, you know, fun-loving, great gals. I also have memories of her laying out on the lawn chair in my grandma's, you know, on her silver mat with body oil, drinking a beer midday, and just, you know, in her element. She didn't care. She was like, "Yeah, you guys are visiting. That's fine. I'm out here doing my thing. I got a hot date with Jeff later." So as the years went by. So one thing Connie and I would do together is we'd go to the state fair, and we had a blast. And I remember having my first Seagram's wine cooler with her in her car at age 13. So that was one thing with Connie, is she always saw me as older, and I always saw her as younger, right? So, that was with her boyfriend Rick in those days, and that was a high time in her life, at least back then, right? So that was then, and then the second lens I really saw her was through me becoming more the 20-year-old and the young adult. I worked with Connie for a couple years at Cafe Latte, where she worked for 20 years. I always appreciated her work ethic, her sophistication, her discernment was something that really, I would say, capitalized her, was prevalent in her. Connie really lived her life like, even though the deterioration that happened later, it was really about the best bite, burnt toast and black coffee, dark chocolate and coffee, a wicked sense of humor with a martini. Connie knew how to pair things, and she knew how to milk the most out of things. And my witnessing that over the years, I became to really appreciate her for the woman that she was. And then my more aged appreciation of Connie, like her commitment to St. Paul and the buildings and the homes, and just being, she had a lot of pride in St. Paul, not just growing up, but over time. Her constitution as a woman, she was definitely her own person. She was tough. She would tell you she was nobody's dummy, and she meant it. I love hearing the stories about her various jobs. I mean, Anne touched on it, but not many people work at in the rectory at the cathedral and cook dinner for priests. But she took pride in just knowing about different things, right? For a while she was a maid at the Embassy Suites, and I remember she was, thinking she was probably the best damn maid ever. And on that front, Connie would come to my house later in life. We'd have Thanksgiving at my place, and Nate and Alan would come, and we'd have wonderful times. And she would come, years later, and we'd be cooking a meal. We would do some sides, and Connie and Alan would do some of the more the main parts. And she would look in my cupboards, and she'd be like, "We need to talk later." Next week I'm coming over, and we're gonna get this together. And she was right. I also want to point out the beautiful job that her and Alan would do over the years cooking, and what a great team they were in bringing to charity, whether it was things they were doing out of the goodness of their heart, and special baked goodies that Alan would help her deliver just all over town to friends, old and new, and also just the love of entertaining, right, and making things special. That was Connie, and Alan too. And lastly, it took her a lot of years. She meant a lot to me, but because she was tough, it took her a long time to say "I love you" back to me. That was just not something she did readily. And probably about 2 years ago now, I was visiting her, and she finally said it. "I love you" back, and I cried up, the whole way home. And then I'll close up, and I know we'll tee up to Eileen, but Nate and I had a wonderful 2-hour visit right before she passed, and it was just him and I, and it was magical. She was smiling, and that was something Nate and I brought, I think, to her in our similarities with dance and just, who we were. Connie was someone who never missed a dance recital of mine my whole life. Because she came to my recitals, loved dance, Nate was then put in dance. So I did have an effect, right? Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I loved her, and I will miss her greatly. Thank you.